Most men believe women are emotionally strong, mysterious, and always in control of attraction. They assume women hold all the power because men are the ones who chase, invest, and get rejected. But that belief is not just wrong. It's exactly what keeps most men weak, reactive, and invisible. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Women are not attracted to power because they possess it. They are attracted to power because they feel it slipping away. Stoicism teaches something most modern dating advice avoids saying out loud. Attraction is not built on confidence alone. It is built on psychological leverage, emotional gaps, and internal tension. Every human being has emotional weaknesses. Women are no exception. But these weaknesses are not flaws. They are instinctive pressure points built into human psychology. Most men never see them because they are too busy trying to impress, please, or prove themselves. And the moment a man plays that role, he gives up all leverage without realizing it. A woman does not feel drawn to a man who tries to win her. She feels drawn to the man who does not need to. This is where everything changes. When a man understands the hidden emotional triggers that operate beneath attraction, he stops reacting emotionally and starts moving strategically, not manipulatively, not desperately, but calmly, deliberately, and with self-command. Stoicism is not about controlling women. It is about mastering yourself so thoroughly that other people's emotions begin orbiting around your stability. Most women are never consciously aware of their own emotional weak points. They feel them, but they cannot explain them. They sense attraction rising, curiosity growing, or attachment forming without understanding why it happened, and that is exactly why these weaknesses are powerful. This video is not about insulting women. It is not about hate, and it is not about becoming cold or cruel. It is about understanding reality instead of fantasy. When you know how emotional uncertainty works, how validation affects desire, how attention shapes value, and how calm detachment triggers pursuit, you stop being emotionally controlled by attraction. You stop chasing signs, you stop fearing rejection, and you stop handing your power away to people who have not earned access to your inner world. By the end of this video, you will understand why emotional certainty kills attraction, why women feel drawn to men who remain calm under pressure, and why the man who controls his reactions controls the dynamic. Most men never learn this, not because it's hidden, but because it's uncomfortable. If you are ready to see attraction without illusions, excuses, or romantic myths, stay with me. Because once you understand these psychological truths, you cannot unsee them, and women feel that shift immediately. Before we start, a quick reminder. The real transformation doesn't happen on YouTube. It happens inside the community. If these videos have opened your eyes, what's inside will rebuild your mindset completely. It's not just a course, it's a brotherhood, a private space where men master attraction, emotional control, and the psychology of power. You don't join for a month, you join for life. Every future course, book, and lesson is yours forever. No subscriptions, no limits. Just one decision that changes your direction. If you're serious about growth, discipline, and purpose, click the link below. Join the community. Enroll once. Grow forever. Let's dive in. Section number 1. Why emotional certainty is a woman's first hidden weakness. One of the least understood aspects of attraction is how deeply it depends on emotional uncertainty. Most men assume women want reassurance, clarity, and consistency from the very beginning, but this assumption is what quietly removes all tension from the dynamic. When a woman feels emotionally certain too early, her curiosity shuts down. Her mind stops exploring possibilities, and once exploration ends, attraction begins to fade. From a Stoic perspective, certainty creates comfort, but comfort does not create desire. A woman may appreciate clarity on a rational level, but her attraction responds to emotional movement, not emotional resolution. When everything is clear, known, and predictable, there is nothing for her mind to engage with. And when the mind disengages, interest follows. This is where most men expose themselves emotionally far too quickly. They explain their intentions, reveal their expectations, and offer emotional availability before it has been earned. In doing so, they remove the emotional tension that naturally fuels attraction. A Stoic man understands that emotional restraint is not distance, it is discipline. He allows connection to unfold without forcing emotional conclusions. When a woman cannot immediately define how much you like her, how invested you are, or where she stands emotionally, her attention sharpens. She becomes more observant, more sensitive to shifts in your tone and behavior. This uncertainty does not make her anxious. It makes her engaged. Her mind stays active because it has not yet found emotional closure. The hidden weakness here is not insecurity, but the need for emotional orientation. Humans instinctively seek to understand where they stand. When you deny premature certainty through calm, grounded presence, her mind begins working to fill in the gaps, and whatever the mind works to resolve becomes emotionally important. Stoicism teaches patience over urgency. When you do not rush to define the dynamic, you communicate self-command. You signal that your emotional world is stable and not dependent on immediate validation. This stability creates contrast, and contrast creates attraction. A woman does not feel pulled toward a man because he made his feelings obvious. She feels pulled toward the man who allowed space for curiosity to exist without discomfort. And the moment curiosity takes root, the dynamic begins to shift in your favor. Section number 2, why validation is a subtle weakness. Most men misuse. One of the most powerful emotional drivers in attraction is validation. Yet, most men misunderstand how it works and end up weakening themselves in the process. Validation feels good, but it also creates emotional dependency when it is given too freely. When a woman receives constant reassurance, compliments, and emotional confirmation without effort, her nervous system relaxes, and when it relaxes too much, attraction loses its edge. From a Stoic standpoint, value is not declared, it is inferred. When validation is scarce and selective, it carries weight. When it is constant and predictable, it becomes background noise. Most men attempt to win attraction by affirming a woman repeatedly, believing that praise will create closeness. In reality, unearned validation removes emotional tension and replaces it with comfort that feels flat and unengaging. The hidden weakness here is not vanity, but sensitivity to emotional reinforcement. Humans naturally respond to what feels meaningful and earned. When a woman notices that your approval is not automatic, she becomes more attentive to her own behavior. She begins adjusting, refining, and investing emotionally to regain a sense of validation that is no longer guaranteed. A Stoic man does not withhold validation to manipulate. He simply does not give it impulsively. His approval is aligned with values, not reactions. When he acknowledges something, it feels intentional and grounded. This creates a powerful contrast with men who overvalidate and dilute their presence. When validation is selective, it triggers self-reflection. A woman may begin wondering whether she impressed you, whether she left an impact, or whether she is being seen as valuable in your eyes. These thoughts deepen emotional engagement because they turn attention inward, and attention directed inward is often the first step toward emotional pursuit. Stoicism teaches moderation in all things, especially in emotional expression. When validation flows from inner standards rather than emotional need, it becomes attractive rather than placating. A woman does not chase the man who praises her endlessly. She chases the man whose approval feels rare, grounded, and meaningful. Section number 3, why attention becomes a weakness when it is too available. Attention is one of the most misunderstood forces in attraction. Most men believe giving more attention creates closeness, but in reality, attention shapes value, not affection. When attention is always available, it loses its weight. When it is earned through alignment and presence, it becomes powerful. This is not cruelty or distance, it is psychological economics. From a Stoic perspective, whatever is scarce is valued, and whatever is abundant is taken for granted. When a woman knows she has unlimited access to your time, energy, and focus, her nervous system relaxes into certainty. There is no urgency to invest, no reason to pursue, and no emotional movement required. Attraction does not grow in emotional stagnation. The hidden weakness here is the instinctive response to emotional availability. Humans are wired to chase what feels meaningful and limited, not what feels guaranteed. When you are always present, always reachable, and always ready to engage, you unconsciously signal that your life has no higher priorities. This does not create desire, it removes polarity. A Stoic man understands that his attention is an extension of his purpose, not a tool for approval. He does not disappear to create mystery, but he does not overextend to secure connection. His availability is balanced, intentional, and aligned with his values. This balance forces her subconscious to recalibrate how much she values access to him. When attention is no longer automatic, a woman becomes more conscious of when and how she engages. She begins initiating more, investing more emotionally, and placing greater weight on moments of connection. The chase emerges not because she was denied attention, but because attention now carries meaning. Stoicism teaches discipline of time and energy. When you respect your own focus, others instinctively respect it too. And when a woman senses that your attention is not easily won, her emotional investment increases, not out of fear, but out of desire to be included in something valuable. Section number 4. Why emotional reactivity is a hidden point of vulnerability. One of the strongest emotional weaknesses that quietly shapes attraction is sensitivity to emotional reactions. Most people, including women, are deeply influenced by how others respond to their moods, words, and shifts in behavior. When a man reacts immediately and emotionally to every change, he hands over control of the emotional frame. Stoicism teaches that the person who reacts less holds more power, not because they are indifferent, but because they are self-governed. When a woman notices that her emotions easily provoke reactions in a man, she subconsciously registers influence. This influence may feel comforting at first, but it also removes mystery and polarity. If every emotional fluctuation is mirrored back instantly, there is no tension, no contrast, and no emotional gravity. Attraction weakens when emotional predictability becomes absolute. The hidden weakness here is not manipulation, but responsiveness to emotional feedback. Humans instinctively test emotional boundaries to understand where they stand. When a man remains calm during emotional shifts, he communicates stability. When he overreacts, explains himself, or rushes to smooth tension, he signals emotional dependence. A Stoic man allows emotions to exist without being ruled by them. Emotional restraint creates a powerful contrast. When you do not escalate emotionally during highs or collapse during lows, her subconscious begins recalibrating the dynamic. She becomes more aware of her own reactions because yours no longer amplify them. This often leads her to moderate herself, invest more thoughtfully, and seek emotional alignment rather than emotional control. Stoicism emphasizes mastery of inner responses. When you master your reactions, you set the emotional tempo. A woman may feel drawn to this steadiness because it feels rare and grounding. She senses that emotional storms do not move you, and that realization shifts respect and attraction simultaneously. The man who remains composed under emotional pressure becomes an anchor, not a mirror, and anchors attract movement around them. When you do not surrender your emotional state to external fluctuations, the dynamic subtly turns, and emotional influence begins flowing toward you rather than away from you. Section number 5. Why the need for emotional security becomes a pressure point. Every human being seeks emotional security, but when that need becomes dominant, it quietly turns into vulnerability. Most women, often without realizing it, are deeply affected by whether an emotional connection feels stable, grounded, and anchored. However, emotional security is not created by reassurance alone. It is created by consistency of character. Stoicism teaches that stability comes from inner order, not from external guarantees. The hidden weakness here lies in the desire to feel emotionally safe without emotional effort. When a woman senses that a man's presence is steady regardless of circumstance, she relaxes into the interaction. But when that steadiness is paired with independence rather than emotional dependence, something more powerful happens. She feels safe yet challenged, grounded yet engaged. This balance keeps her emotionally invested. Most men attempt to provide emotional security by over-explaining, over-reassuring, and over-committing too early. In doing so, they remove emotional movement. The interaction becomes settled instead of dynamic. A Stoic man offers security through his actions, not his words. He does not promise stability, he embodies it. When a woman cannot immediately secure emotional certainty from you, but senses consistency in your behavior, her mind stays alert. She feels drawn to the stability you represent while still wanting to understand her place within it. This creates emotional engagement without anxiety. Her interest deepens because the connection feels earned, not given. Stoicism teaches that the strongest form of reassurance is predictability of character, not predictability of emotion. When your responses remain measured, your values consistent, and your direction unchanged, you communicate safety without surrendering polarity. This balance is rare, and rarity creates value. A woman becomes more invested when she realizes that emotional security comes from aligning with your world, not controlling it. And when that realization sets in, the chase continues naturally without force or manipulation. Section number 6, why emotional investment without control becomes a weakness. One of the most overlooked psychological vulnerabilities is emotional investment without structure. When emotions begin to grow but lack boundaries, they create inner instability rather than connection. Most women, like most people, are highly sensitive to whether emotional investment feels grounded or chaotic. Stoicism teaches that emotion without discipline leads to loss of control, and loss of control dissolves attraction. The hidden weakness here is not caring too much, but caring without direction. When a woman begins to feel emotionally involved and senses that the man she is engaging with remains centered, self-directed, and unchanged by emotional fluctuations, she feels pulled toward that stability. But when emotional intensity rises without structure, it creates anxiety instead of desire. Many men mistakenly believe that emotional escalation deepens attraction. They open up too fast, prioritize too early, and emotionally commit before alignment is established. This collapses polarity. A Stoic man allows emotional investment to grow slowly in proportion to shared experience and mutual respect. His emotions are present, but they are governed. When a woman notices that her emotional reactions do not destabilize you, she subconsciously adjusts her own. She becomes more measured, more intentional, and more invested in maintaining connection. Emotional control creates emotional safety, and safety paired with mystery sustains attraction. Stoicism emphasizes balance over excess. When emotions are expressed with restraint and clarity, they feel authentic rather than overwhelming. A woman is drawn to the man who feels deeply but moves calmly. That combination signals maturity, strength, and reliability. The moment emotional investment becomes grounded rather than reactive, the dynamic shifts. Instead of emotions running the connection becomes a space where emotions can exist without chaos, and that stability becomes deeply attractive because it feels rare and dependable. Section number 7, why the need to feel chosen becomes a quiet weakness. At a deeper psychological level, one of the strongest emotional drivers is the need to feel chosen, not just wanted. This need operates quietly beneath attraction and often shapes behavior without conscious awareness. Most women, like most people, want to feel uniquely selected rather than merely desired. Stoicism teaches that attachment to being chosen creates vulnerability because it ties self-worth to external confirmation. The hidden weakness here is not insecurity, but the emotional pull of exclusivity. When a woman senses that a man's attention is intentional but not desperate, selective but not withholding, her emotional engagement deepens. If she feels chosen too quickly, the sense of value fades, but if she senses that choice is deliberate and earned, her investment grows. Many men rush to signal exclusivity, believing it creates safety and closeness. In reality, premature exclusivity removes tension and curiosity. A Stoic man does not rush to declare emotional decisions. He allows alignment to reveal itself over time. His choice is not reactive. It is grounded in observation and values. When a woman is not immediately certain that she has been fully chosen, but senses that she could be, her mind becomes engaged. She pays closer attention to your standards, your boundaries, and your direction. She becomes more aware of her own behavior because she feels that alignment matters. This is not manipulation. It is natural psychological response to perceived value. Stoicism teaches that value is not announced. It is demonstrated through consistency of choice. When you remain calm, selective, and self-directed, the act of choosing carries weight. A woman becomes more emotionally invested because being chosen by a man who chooses carefully feels meaningful. The chase strengthens when choice is felt as intentional rather than automatic. When a woman senses that access to your inner world is earned through alignment and respect, her desire to be included grows quietly but powerfully. In short, what you've learned in this video is not about exploiting women, controlling emotions, or playing psychological games. It is about understanding reality without illusion. Every hidden weakness we discussed exists not because women are flawed, but because human psychology responds to uncertainty, restraint, and emotional discipline in very specific ways. Most men lose power the moment they try to secure attraction. They rush to be chosen, rush to be liked, and rush to feel certain. In doing so, they surrender the very tension that makes attraction alive. Stoicism teaches the opposite path. It teaches that the man who remains centered, measured, and self-directed becomes emotionally influential without effort. When you stop chasing certainty, emotional clarity begins forming on the other side. When you stop over-validating, value reappears. When your attention becomes intentional rather than automatic, attraction regains its weight. And when your reactions no longer fluctuate with every emotional signal, you become a man whose presence changes the dynamic simply by existing. The true weakness is never emotion itself. It is emotion without structure. A Stoic man does not suppress feeling, but he governs it. He does not chase desire, but he allows desire to move toward him. He does not demand to be chosen, but he chooses deliberately, and that choice carries gravity. Women do not chase men who try to be irresistible. They chase men who are internally ordered, men whose calm cannot be shaken, men whose attention is not for sale, men whose lives are not paused waiting for validation. If there is one lesson to take from this, it is this: attraction follows self-mastery. The more disciplined you become with your emotions, your time, and your reactions, the less you need to control anything outside yourself. People feel that strength instinctively. Do not focus on her weaknesses. Focus on your discipline. Focus on your center. When you do, attraction stops being something you pursue and becomes something that responds to who you are. That is the Stoic way. Remember, knowledge means nothing without action. If you're ready to rise above emotion and lead with purpose, join the community today at the link below. Enroll once, grow forever.